watching. Hello, ladies out there at Phoenix Rising Women's Group. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We have the one, the only, the magnificent Mara Palermo, a friend of mine that I met earlier last year in a coaching group called The Fifth Door. It was a super interesting adventure. Mara is located in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she is a certified coach and helps people transform their lives through self-mastery and really gaining a greater understanding of what's going on within. And then not only that, as you can see, she is a very lovely lady, and she has her own lash and hair studio where she helps women transform externally after sometimes I imagine helping them change internally. So Mara, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you.
Oh, I am just so excited to be here because we've been talking about this for so long, and I just feel like so grateful that, we're here, especially on September 11th. Oh my God, what a day.
It is, taking a moment to honor the fallen and the bravery that was there. Thank you so much for everyone out there who serves and families, and for everyone who continues to do so. Thank you for that.
Yes.
So important to honor all of that on this.
I know, I can't believe it's so long ago, but.
Yeah, I still remember exactly where I was today. Yeah, down to the color of the shoes I was wearing.
Crazy. It's one of those memories that you'll never forget.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'm just like, where to go? There's so much from like amped up to like the general expansion and contraction of life.
I know.
We have much to discuss. As as coaches, it's really important for us to hold space for those that are struggling with various aspects of emotion and trauma, and knowing when to direct them to counselors as well as part of our scope of practice, right? Because there are people experiencing PTSD and so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know. I think it's just something that it's a very rewarding thing to do for people. And then there's also, there's just moments where, like you said, there's just some things are just not your scope that you're like, okay, I'd love to support you any way I can, but it's just not my thing. It's not my department.
Yeah. And I think that's part of what's so important about the abundance mindset is understanding that you don't need to try and pull all of the people in. There is a time and place for us to be like, hey, I am looking at like the big picture of all the things that would be necessary to help facilitate your growth. And you need to go over there for a while. And then if you want, you can come back and I can support you in these other ways. And some of those ways are making yourself feel good and feel sexy and beautiful on the inside and the outside. And an understanding that sometimes when we are struggling, it helps us to give a little exterior lift. I used to call it putting on the guise of the goddess, and like channeling some of that and feeding off some of the healthier energies that come with doing that. So Mara, you want to tell us a little bit about your journey and what that's looked like for you coming into the space and now as a coach and doing the hair and lash?
Yeah, it's so funny because I have been in the beauty industry for 20 years now. So I have owned my own business, owned my salon. I had employees and things like that. So it was like have always been in this industry. And one of the things I know for myself was always like struggling with this perfectionism, or always having to, like, if I did this for myself, externally, I'll feel better internally. And I was like that for so long. And then also being in the industry, it was like very much focused on that. And so I think that like over the years, as I started to get a little bit like older and start going through some things, life things, and really having some challenges. And I just was like very much disconnected from like myself, because I was just so focused on like what other people thought, or, you know, I had to look a certain way, or just like all this, like put this pressure on myself.
Yeah.
So it was like I was just miserable, and I felt very just like empty, and I just was like always chasing these things that were like externally. So even my salon, it was like something that, you know, I would just bury myself into like my work and everything that had to do with that. So then it was like I started to go through like my own transformation internally. And so it was like I started, you know, utilizing coaches. I was even at one point I was going through like therapy and things like that. And I was always like seeking and searching. You know what I mean? Like I was always like, I know that there's something more, like I'm missing something, or like what is going on? Like I always felt like there was something that was like lacking, you know?
Right.
It was like this gaping hole inside that I was just like, something is missing here. But I had no idea. And obviously, and even then didn't really have much self-awareness. So it was like just like acting out of like autopilot, and, you know, having all these like, you know, just kind of reacting to life, and then also allowing things just to happen to me, right? This is
Yeah.
what I had this like thought of like, oh, like life, like my life sucks because this. And so my thing was like when I started to go through like I said, my transformation, it was just very much, it was painful. Like it was painful. There was nothing pretty about it. Okay. And I was just like, sometimes I'd be like, what am I even doing? You know, because I really went through, I struggled with some things. Like I struggled with like, you know, I went through like a period of time where I had like a really bad like eating disorder. And then like all like it was just trying to control all the things on the outside of me.
Yeah.
Because like I just couldn't get a grip, you know, internally. So then as I started going through that, and shifting things that were going on internally, I really started to see life differently. I started to see myself differently. And it started to spill out into my work as well, obviously, because like when we really change internally, it does. It's going to, you know, everything that's going on internally. So like if I was, you know, in a darker place, like that's what's going to show up in my life. And that's what I'm going to project out there. So for me, it was like really getting, you know, going through a transformation, and also having the courage to do that. And so once it started to spill out into like my, you know, to my clients, into my life, into everything, it was one of those things where I felt like for many years it was like I feel like I've always been some kind of a coach or a therapist or something for my clients, because of like all the stuff I've heard, all of the things. I've always been like that sounding like that board for like people, just like, you know, they felt safe with me.
Yeah.
And it was just something that I started to be like, like I really would like to be able to support women, you know, and men now, because I work with men as well. But before it was mainly women. And so to be able to have that transformation for them, to know that it's externally, it's great. That's like the byproduct of like what is going on internally. And so I think that's one of the things that really shifted for me. And so then I would say the past like few years, maybe like within 5 years, like I really was like, it was been on my mind.
Yeah.
And then I think probably the past couple, like, and even when I met you, like that was like going, like when we were in that pandemic, it was like I had the time, I had the space. And at first I was freaking out because like my salon was shut down, like there's all the things going on. And I was like, what am I, like, what's going on? But I took that time, I just again looked at it differently, and had more of like that abundance mindset of like, okay, yes, all this is going on, but this is going on with like everyone. We have no control over it.
Right.
So what exactly, you know, what can I do? And it was like one of those like intuitive like nudges where it's like, this is the time to really step into this role and to be able to, you know, coach women and support women in their own transformation. So that's what led me to, you know, really diving in. It was like day in and day out. I was just like so obsessed with it in a good way though. Like it was like something that I was really passionate about. I was excited. I was doing things for myself internally. And then in turn, obviously being able to create the business that I have now too. So that's pretty much like what my journey's been, like in a nutshell. So, but it's been great. It's been great. I mean, I'm glad I went through all the things that I went through.
Makes us who we are today.
Yeah.
You can serve on a higher level with greater amounts of empathy and compassion.
Exactly.
What is one of your favorite stories of a client that transformed with the work that you do, either with the coaching or with the hair and lash? I think somebody walks in and they're just like, oh, it feels so ugly and awful and nothing can ever be better. And then they get something. And
yeah, it was kind of funny because I find that oftentimes it's the one thing that it's like, I guess, like sticks in my mind is just a lot of women that I would see breaking through very unhealthy relationships. You know what I mean? Like they would come there and they would be like all sorts of, so it was almost like they would come to me and I would hear it. And, and so it was like almost like this unraveling of like getting down to the core of, their own self-worth and their own, and I know because like I've gone through that, right? Like I had those relationships that are just not serving and it didn't make any sense. And, and like looking back. And so like, as I was able to break out of it or whatever you want to call it, it was like very inspiring to like other people. Yeah. So, then they would take that step back. And so I would just share things that I did. And I just remembered like this one woman in particular, it was like her third marriage. And she was like, I mean, she was constantly drinking. She was just constantly partying. She was just like in this like frenzy, and even with her third husband, she was trying to like make it work and everything. And then he ended up, I think he was like cheating on her or something, whatever. And so like she found out, it was like all this stuff. They even like renewed their vows in like Vegas. And I just remember her coming in and we had a conversation, and I can't remember what it was that I said or what we talked about, but I think that was like her like aha moment. And so it just was weird because it was like she was like this, like drinking, partying, like, and then next thing you know, she was like, we're getting divorced. And he was like out, and they just like, they stopped talking completely. And then she just like cold turkey stopped drinking completely. She's like, hasn't touched alcohol or anything since then. And then she went on this retreat and she started eating like all these healthy foods. And now she's working. It's like she completely transformed her life. And she's in this really great relationship that, because she said like within like 4 months, she was like getting married or getting engaged to like the person, so that's where like this, she was able to have like a long distance relationship for almost like a year and she thought that was like probably good for her because it was like, they'd see each other on the weekend and that was it. Yeah. But now they're to the point where he moved in with her, like he moved where she is, they live together and she's like so happy. So to see that, like, and it was just like that. It was like that one decision that you make, Yeah. Oh, and just having that courage to be like, no, I deserve better than this. I'm getting divorced. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like that. It's like, ooh, I love those stories.
Absolutely. And did she start to glow from the inside because she started doing her work?
Yes. She looks amazing. Like she looks so good. It's like night and day. It's night and day. Cause she'd come in, cause I would do her lashes and she would come in and it would be like, she'd have like no lashes hardly, cause she'd be like, drunk or like whatever. She'd just be like a mess. She's like, oh my God. All
puffy and
yeah. Like she just was always like, oh, like, and so and then she was when she started really taking care of herself and giving herself all that love. I mean, such a transformation. Yeah, she's one of my best friends now. It's like, aww. Yeah, it's really awesome.
That's super sweet. I love that. Can you tell all the ladies out there a little bit about like self-love?
Yeah. It's a very broad like word, right? Self-love. And so I think there's a lot of like even things under like self-care and self-love, but I do feel like self-love to me is like the opposite of self-abandonment and self-betrayal.
Mm.
So because oftentimes women, we want to be able to like give and nurture and take care and do all the things for other people.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's this idea of like being selfish to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a selfless thing. It's like you're selfish if X, Y, and Z. But how are we going to be able to really give to people if we're not giving to ourselves first? Right. So, for me, I just realized like where I was putting all my energy and attention. And when that was going on, I was just like, I just started realizing like, okay, where am I in this equation? Right. And so, it was me saying no to things that just weren't serving me. If it was like, it could be extremes of like friendships, relationships, even sometimes like family members and things like that. It was just like things that were either draining my energy or I was like putting a lot into it, not really getting anything in return. And so I feel like learning how to say no and learning how to be like my own best friend, basically.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I started to give to myself. And there's like things that I used to, if I wanted to go to the gym, for example, and a friend would call and be like, oh, let's go do this. I'd be like, okay. And like just completely abandon whatever it is that I had planned for myself to go and do this because, there's just like, I didn't want to miss out, or I didn't want to say no. I didn't want to upset her, all of those things, and like people pleasing.
Yeah.
So it was just like, so that's like an example of it. So it's like now where it's like, I would have no problem doing the things for people, but it would be like, I'd have to, prioritize my things first, because then then I didn't show up for myself. I would feel like bad about it, like I would feel like, and so all the negative self-talk would happen. And then
Right.
sometimes I'd be frustrated at the other person because I'm like I went and did this for them and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So for me, it was like really looking at myself and being like, okay, how are you showing up for you and how are you not showing up for you? Right. And where can we, and it's not something that's perfect, right? Those are like some examples of it, but I just feel like being able to stay true to yourself, and it's not easy all the time.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Do you feel like when you got better at self-love that it increased your self-worth?
Yes, because self-worth, if that's why it's self-worth. It's like you get to define that, that's how I look at it. And there's still areas in my life where I struggle with that, where I'm like, is this like, am I taking something that I don't want? Right. And that comes back to like self-worth. And that sometimes I feel like we are like we're faced with situations and things and sometimes people in our lives that's mirroring that back. Right. So the more that I give myself that self-love and I'm radiating, I find that my self-worth goes up. Right. So it's kind of like I'm on this higher vibration. So like when things come into my life that are maybe not, that just don't feel right, I can almost like feel it and be like, this really isn't in alignment with what it is that I want to create in my life, but then again, I get to choose. Do I just, choose like say sorry, no, or am I going to stay and, allow it to continue? So
Absolutely. And that whole conversation of self-worth and perfectionism.
so brutal. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's where sometimes it's like the perfectionism piece, like it was just the way I look at that. It's like, it's like a high level of certainty that we want. When I think of like perfectionism, it's like you want things to be so perfect because you don't like, it's like I'm too scared to fail, or I want things to be so like lined up so that there isn't any room for that. And it's like just having that certainty of like, okay, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, and so that's why for me it was like everything, like I either wouldn't get started with stuff, or I couldn't finish things because whatever, because I was like, oh my God, it has to be perfect. It would just drive me crazy. So,
Yeah.
and I really thought it was like everybody else. and all the other things that were going on. I didn't realize I had that much like control over the way I viewed things. So yeah, so that's why I think like the perfectionism was almost like, I feel like I'm not worthy as myself,
Right.
so that I have to go and do all these things to make myself worthy, make myself perfect.
Yeah, Brene Brown talks a lot about shame, the connection between shame and perfectionism.
Yes. Oh, really? Yes, she does. I love how she talks about shame.
Yeah. Anybody out there, if you haven't listened to Brene Brown, I definitely recommend it, and how, because she's a shame researcher. Who knew that was a thing?
I know she
But
did.
yeah, listening to Brene Brown can literally change your life.
She's amazing. I mean, isn't she just so amazing? I know. And that's the thing. It's like, that's tied into everything. I feel like is shame is so at the core of things a lot of times. And it's such a low like vibration for us. And so it can sink us, right? But it's like, and that's where all these other things start to show up, because of the fact that we're just operating from that, just that level, and like unconsciously believing that we deserve it. So, and so that's where I do feel like with self-love, the thing is I stopped focusing on fixing. I stopped focusing on looking at myself as broken. I stopped that. And for a while, because I was like, oh, like I have to be perfect and then I can have this. Like, oh, I'm not perfect enough, so I shouldn't even like try to attempt being in a relationship. Or, oh, I can't even do this, so I shouldn't even have a business yet. Like all these things that was stopping me from just going after the things that I want.
Yeah.
And so, so now the focus for me was, what do I love and like what do I want to create? And then it was like starting to really focus on that and visualizing and putting my attention towards that. And I find that the more that I'm in that mindset, the more that I'm focusing on the things that I really love to do, or that make me happy, and like even the vision that I'm creating in my mind, like the more that I'm connecting with that, it's like those other, and I'm taking the action steps, because obviously that's what it's going to take, right? You have to act on it.
Yes.
So, acting on that, that's also building my self-confidence. It's building my self-belief. It's building my self-worth. And so now it's like, I'm focusing more on that. Whereas like, it's not so much a thing anymore. Does that make sense? Like, it's like, it is like, it's like, I feel like it's always there. It's always going to be, because we always are going to have these choices to make. Right.
Right.
However, the more that I start building, it's like, the more that I'm like, oh, like, I feel better about me. So it's like, I want this or I want that. And it just seems the momentum starts to build, instead of like, oh my God, I need to go fix myself and make myself perfect.
Yeah. Like a lot, I feel like a lot of women, they get all weird about dating their partners, because they're like, oh, well, I have to be at this certain level before I can ask for somebody that I feel like will treat me the way that they should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just started to, sorry, my dog's like,
yeah, show us your dog. Show us your dog, Mara.
This is Diva. And she's Diva. She's like, I just want to sit on my lap. Yeah. She's my min pin. She's 12.
Is she blind?
She's blind. She went blind about a year ago. Oh, so yeah, you can see like her eyes look different now, because, well, she actually lost vision in this eye from like an accident. Her eyesight just never came back. Oh, wow. So she's only had one eye for a while. And so I think just over time, age, the whole, she probably straining with the one eye, she like lost vision in this one. So she has like the cataract there. And then, so now about fast forward, like a year ago, it was just gone. So it's like, I know it's interesting though. She really gets around well, it's just, sometimes she gets a little turned around. She doesn't know where she's at. So, but I know. Yeah. But no, so one of the things like I was saying before was like when you were bringing up like even with relationships and things, it's true because I just recently I took a hiatus from dating for like, I mean, nothing. Like I wanted nothing to do with anything, you know?
I do
And
know.
yeah, and it was like, even like when I was working with you, you know, like that was still part, like I was like, not even, I don't even think I flirted with somebody. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just like one of those, like I had no desire. And so just recently, I like opened up, you know, my dating, you know, again. And it's funny because I see how much of this, of like my insecurities and like the self, it's all coming up again, right? And I'm just like, oh my God, I thought it was done. But it's such a different type of journey for me because I really go in, it's like I go in almost like as a learning lesson, you know, like what is like what am I supposed to learn about myself here, right? And it's like it's been interesting, and I do feel like, God, I'm like, I thought I was more confident than this, or I thought I was more, because that's how it, you know, it comes up, and I'm just like, you know, am I even worthy? Like, do I deserve anything? You know, do I deserve this? I probably don't. Like, oh my God, like all the stuff, right? And then you have another person who has like their stuff, and so it's like you're bringing it together, and you're just like, yeah, it's interesting. So
It is interesting. And I don't know if you found this, but I oftentimes struggle to find men with a growth mindset, unless they're like out of the state or out of the country.
yeah, I totally understand. I understand what you're saying. Yes, yes. And so for you, like, do you feel like, yeah, like their mindset, it sometimes it just, it's interesting to like listen to them, right? And to hear them and to see how they view things. And, you know, and I think sometimes even, and I'm talking about like not just in dating, but just like in general too, like
Sure.
guys,
Yeah.
you know, their mindset's very, it's just very like this way, you know. And the cool thing is I mean, like I will say, like having people that are like willing to do it. They might not know how, but at least they're willing, you know. And it's like,
Yeah. I feel like I found more men that are willing to have conversation. And I think that's in part because I run a men's group, you know, so when I tell men that I advocate for men's rights, that usually like opens a part of them that is not usually accessed by most women because they're more on the defensive.
yeah,
Right. And so I'm able to have better conversations, but it's still not necessarily like it's a journey, right? Because I just haven't found all the pockets. Like I feel like I'm just not close to a pocket of of single men that I would normally find attractive.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey for sure. And I've even done a stand-up comedy bit about me dating and like
Oh,
working with men specifically. It's like, yeah, it's on the internet. It's fine.
yeah,
But yeah, that personal accountability, I feel like people struggle with a lot. And I feel like there's just like a general, it's a higher level of reactivity right now, just with everything that's going on in the world. And so I feel like it's a whole nother layer that you have to break through. Um, but yeah, it's like a non-negotiable for me at this point. I'm like, I can casually hang out with people, but I won't even remotely consider dating somebody that does not have a growth mindset and like a high level of personal accountability and communication and whatnot.
yeah, yeah, I know. And that's the thing too, is like it's having that as well, you know, is making sure like I have that too. Cause I'll I want that, right? So, and it's like, and as I have to pay attention to my own self of like, am I showing up in that way? You know,
Right.
am I doing that for myself? And I notice it's like I can notice myself getting defensive or wanting to shut down or like go into my shell or like reverting backwards into this, you know, old identity or whatever you want to call it. But it was
Sure.
just, you know, so again, I'm like, dang, like I was like being aware of like that, you know, and then it's like I'm like, okay, I need to like shift that, or it's like I'm noticing that I'm doing that, you know, because then it's affecting like the other person, you know what I mean? Like it's just like,
Sure. But do you talk to them about that is what you're feeling? Because I feel like that's the whole cue thing that's like a different level. Because some people are like, okay, I'm going to do the work and do things, but then they forget to tell the other person like what they're feeling.
Yes. Well, I think that's what it was. Like, and I was like, I was sharing a lot of things, like just like I'm pretty transparent. And so, but like one of the things that I noticed like the other day was like, and so then it was like I was like having these conversations where then now he was also able to really open up, and which was so like it was huge for him because he was very much like it's not his thing at all, you know? And so, but obviously there's that safety that's there. There's that there's that trust that's being built, and I obviously encourage it, and it's something that is really important to me. And so again, like where he's stepping way out of his comfort zone because he's very like open and transparent about a lot of like his feelings and a lot of emotions and things like that. And so I was sitting here like, you know, I love that because I'm like, this is great. And then it was like something happened, and then like I immediately like the other day like went back into my shell, and I just like closed the, you know, I was like, and so it really affected him because he was just like just probably felt like, you know, I just like like where did you like what hi like you just didn't even nothing. And so, you know, again, I think what it was like I actually appreciated the fact that he called me out on it though. You know, like you could tell because he was just like, hey, like, and it was like, and that was one of the things that I didn't realize I think I appreciated, but I was kind of like, you know, I kind of like somebody who's holding me accountable because he was just like, this is something that you want, like you want this, and like here and like to him, he felt like I'm, you know, and then all of a sudden you just pick and choose and you shut this down. And I was like, I just felt really bad about that. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, you know?
Yeah, you know, and that's the healthy part of having grace, right?
Yes.
Because we are human and we will have moments where we backslide, right? And when we're around people that we respect and we know that they respect us and they come to us like in a place of interest and affinity with positive intent, then when they call us out on things, then we know they're not trying to be malicious, right?
No,
They're not
right.
trying to cut us down. And I think that's really the difference of whether or not you can receive that kind of feedback and be like, okay, you're right. I'll work on that. And I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that was like, and that was the thing too. It's just like, you're so prideful, you know, you're so proud sometimes. But like, it wasn't even that I was like, I don't want to talk to, it was just literally just me like, it was just me shutting down, you know, it was like, and so I didn't want to, you know, I didn't communicate, and then I ended up going to sleep. It was just like stuff like that, which kind of like leaves the other
been there.
You know,
sure.
So it's like, and that was the thing, like to him, he's like, oh, well, like takes it like I was like being like prideful, like I'm not going to call him kind of thing. And a little bit was that, but a little bit really was also, I felt like I just was like, I couldn't open up, you know, like there was just something that, hi.
Hey, Elysia. Elysia is one of our wonderful, she's like our #1 fan here in Phoenix Rising. Love having Elysia here. She's fantastic. So Elysia, you want to pop on and say hi? Do you have any questions or comments for Mara today? I'm not sure how long you've been listening for.
Yeah, I just came on, so I want to just listen and just enjoy, but I want to participate live. So
amazing. Thank you. It's so fun.
Thank you. It's always wonderful when we have somebody jump on. Elysia, I appreciate you so much.
Back at ya.
Thank you. Mara, you bring up so many excellent points. And one of the things that I think we're coming to is that self-mastery piece, which you really focus on in your certified coaching program. And yeah, so you want to tell us a little bit more about that? And
yes. So yeah, through my journey, I was going through another certification. And so I met someone in that group. His name is Shane. And so we worked really well together over the past, you know, like over a year now. And it was something that we were in alignment, like with our vision. So we really love the self-mastery piece of, and when we say that, it's like really getting clear on like who you are and like what it is that you really want. Again, focusing on like knowing that you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed. So let's focus on what it is that you actually want to create. And so, you know, everything and anything that shows up as you're moving towards that, we, you know, like working through that and kind of like removing that resistance so you can continue to move forward. Not so much, let's go back and like fix everything that's wrong with us, and then we're going to have this. You don't want to do that, right? So a lot of people that we work with are either aspiring entrepreneurs, they may be new in business, it's something that maybe they want, or they're just really wanting to improve like their life, but they have no idea how to do that. So one of the things that we work with them doing is, you know, again, is like creating something that is from their purpose, like something that truly is like, if they were like, I want to have this business, like some of the people we work with now, mainly are people that want to have their own business, but they're either so afraid of it, they don't know how to do it. There's a lot of overwhelm because there's so much information and it shuts them down. And then again, it's like they never get started because they might have this perfectionism thing going on, or they might have, you know what I mean? There's all the things behind, you know, behind our, like in our mind that stops us.
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, one of the things that we work also with a lot of people that have like, that are maybe business coaches, but they have, the strategies are great. But if the piece behind it is like, if they're not going to get their mind right and focus on it, it's just, they're never going to move forward with it.
Right.
So we wanted to, so that's one of the things that, again, we wanted to create, was something that was about the self-mastery and really learning how to master your own emotions, your thoughts, you know, and knowing that you are the creator of your life and that you can really shift and change and have anything that you want. So that's one of the things that we do, is we kind of take them through that process of, you know, of having the focus, vision, and having that structure so that they can really create a life that they love. So, yeah.
That's fantastic.
So it's been fun. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah. And don't you have a course coming up that people can join?
Yes. Yeah. So we're already in the middle of like the course that we're going through now, but we are starting to get into round 2, you know, and just to take people in. So we do have that. Yep. And it's going to be about, I think it's going to be probably like 8 weeks. But right now what we're working through is seeing if we're going to split it up in 2 parts, or if we're just going to do the full like 8 weeks. So we're working on that now. But yeah, like it's been great, like working with some of these clients and just seeing what they are creating, what they're breaking through, you know, every week. It's really great. So
that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Elysia, what have you got?
You know, I have a question. I took myself off mute. Did you say your name is Amara?
It's Mara.
Oh, Mara.
Mm-hmm.
I knew my accent was going to mess it up somehow.
Oh, you're good. Yes.
So my question is, I'm a life coach as well, and I had to think about doing marketing online, social media, and so forth. And I just got off the phone yesterday with a potential person who was trying to convince me to pay him X amount of dollars to be coached to launch my marketing. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he said to me was, well, I looked at your website and you have your business page. You have a Facebook business page, you have a Facebook business group, mm-hmm. and then you have your personal page. May I recommend that you put all your live streaming on your personal page? What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know what the outcome would be for that. I don't know like what would what would be the point of that. So, yeah. and that's the thing, like there's so many different ways to do it. And so I don't know if like one's right or one's wrong. So it's like for us, like, you know, we have a group, we do a lot of our stuff in the Facebook group, but there are times where we will live stream certain things to like our personal, you know, just to show what we're doing. And it's probably not going to be like for like the information or what we're doing for like our paid clients, but what we have like a free group, which is like, you know, the information we might talk about, let's say self-confidence, right? So like we can go on and talk about that on our on our Facebook page, which is our personal, just to get people to see what it is that we're doing. Because if it is your personal page, you see, like, they know you, right? So if you have a lot of people that are on your Facebook page, because that's what we do as well. Like, I do post on my Facebook page, but the one thing I do as well, and I'm not very consistent with that, because oftentimes I'm on like Instagram or other things, but if you're posting personally your own stuff, like what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, so that they can like know who you are, and then also add some stuff about your business, then yeah, because your potential clients might be there, as well. So I can see, where he's coming from with that.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. No problem.
Mara, I was just thinking about all that, and like, how do you, just transferring a little bit, how do you find your sexy spark? Like, as a woman, and we talk about self-mastery, and we talk about just like being our authentic selves, and how do you transfer that into finding your sexy spark?
Oh, this is so good. Okay, so that it takes a little bit of practice, right? However, I remember there were times where, like, I couldn't find one thing that I was like, oh my God, this is great about myself. Like, I just had that about me for a long time. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, though, that I realized, and I do it with clients, and it really helps them, even if it's like I'm doing their hair or their lashes or whatever it is. There is something about you that you absolutely love. Right. And so that's why when my clients would come in, I'd be like, well, what is that? And then they would just be like, they didn't know. But it could be like your eyes, it could be like your hair, it could be like your cheekbone, whatever it is. And so that was one of the things that I'm like, then really, like, lead with that, right? Like, if you have really good eyes, then really play up your eyes. You know what I mean? And then do your hair maybe like subtly, or do whatever. But there's something about you that you have that nobody else does, right? Because we're all different. Right. So being able to have that, and then also one of the things so that's just like kind of like on the physical thing. So I know, like, one of my clients looked amazing in red. I'm like, go buy red of everything. Wear red lipstick, whatever it was. And it was funny because it was like, this is what made her feel sexy. Like, she would put it on and she'd be like, oh my God, like, I went to the grocery store and, like, this guy said this to me, or whatever it was, because you're radiating, like, you're really complimenting yourself here. Yeah. And so I know for me, that was one of the things that, I used to do. Like, what do I just like love? And so I started focusing on that. And it was like, the more that I started focusing on that, the more I started finding things about myself that I loved. You know what I mean? And so the other thing too is writing down like 20 things about you, whoever, that you've either accomplished, 20 things that you've overcame, 20 things that you can, whatever it is, start being your own fan. It's like, when I started to do that, because I had to do that for one of my courses, because it was like wanting to build this business. And I was like so afraid, and had all these things coming up for me that were like all these insecurities. And once I really started to focus on, that was the whole thing. It was like, we had to focus on like our self-talk and our self-worth, and what makes us great and amazing. And so once I was able to start putting that down on paper, I mean, it could be like, I ran a mile, like, whatever it was. It was just like, even those little things, when I started doing it consistently, I did it. I think it was like, even for just like a week, I started noticing things different about myself. So those are a couple things that I feel like are, and I know people say, like, stand in the mirror and like tell yourself you love yourself and do things like that. But those were things that were really uncomfortable for me. So I found that, like, writing things out or looking for the things, when I started looking for things that were accomplishments and made myself feel good about me, I started finding more. So then it's like, I felt more confident, which then also I would appear more attractive, which means that, do you know what I mean? Like, it just kind of started in that trickle down, effect. So now it's like, when I go to, like, whether it's getting dressed or going to do something, it's like, I feel good already. So the stuff that I put on is just an addition. it's not my go-to.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
You're welcome.
Lisa, do you want to chirp in at all about the things that like help you bring forward your sexy spark? 'Cause
Yeah.
I know you got
wanna
some stuff in there. Come on, girl.
I absolutely, love it. I told you a couple of times that I make my own products, right?
Oh, cool.
So I make my own lotion, but I make it into more like a body lotion where it's thick. So less water, make it thick. So you have to do to apply it, you have to just simply wet your hand and then rub it together and put it on. So the act of really rubbing it on makes me feel myself. And research shows that the sense of touch is so invaluable. And if you live alone, I have my son, so once in a while I get a hug from him, but he's a teenager, so he's gone most of the time, right? So the sense of touch is good. So you can either go get a massage or do like I do. I like taking my showers or my bath and really applying that lotion that has my favorite smell in it. And so that's one thing that I do. And then I use aromatherapy, and that just really puts me into my sexy. And I dance every Friday. Come on now.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, you got to get back doing your live dancing.
Yeah.
I did last night. But the one thing about me is my self-talk about that is really horrible because I have my back is curved a little bit due to arthritis. And so my stomach pushes out. I'm like, I don't like the way I look online. So sometimes I that stops me, but I didn't care. If you look last night on my personal page, my eyes were closed the entire time. I was like, I don't care. I just want to send the vibe out and let people reach it and dance if they want to dance and feel it. I just didn't care.
So what kind of dancing? Is it just dancing or is it something specific?
I am challenging myself that I can dance to just about any music, any foreign music, any instrument.
I love it.
The art of just tapping into the artist and feel how the artist can make you feel accentuated. And so, the Latin music is very big on that. They really want the woman to really show her moves and her curves, and kizomba is like that too. Yeah. And so you play those music and you just tap into the artist or tap into one instrument, and there you're gone. You're just you're in that story with them that they're telling.
Oh, I like that. Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, dance is great.
Dance tonight for you guys. So Friday night is my personal page, but I can come on your page and dance tonight.
Yeah, you told me anytime. I mean, it is Sexy Saturday, so if ever there was a time to hop on and do your lives.
I know.
I want to put on something sexy.
Yeah,
I'm in my mommy's dress right now. I'm homesick for my mom. Aww. So I stole this dress 15 years ago. And it's big and fluffy, but it's like when I put this dress on, I'm from Jamaica. Oh, I make my own porridge. You know the story about this porridge is too hot. This porridge is right. So I make porridge and then I just go sit down and I reflect on being a kid again. So I'm in my mommy's dress. I won't be dancing in this one.
I love that.
Crazy. I'm crazy. Just finding the fun and just laughing at yourself and being gentle. The way we speak to ourselves is so hard sometimes. And so for me, finding my sexy, because I was in the military for so long, I really had to be aware of how I'm talking to myself.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Thanks for sharing.
Mara, we're coming close to our close.
Yes.
We have to keep it under an hour so we can still post it on Instagram later. It's so funny about the times. Do you have anything else you would like to share? Any exercises or any stories?
Well,
so much already.
I know there's so much, but I definitely feel strongly about the whole writing things out about how awesome you are, going off, really going off, and sometimes voice clipping it. Because when you're putting it out there, it's it's vibrationally going out, it's it does something, and hearing it, it's exciting. And so knowing that that's one of the things to self-love is like, if you really truly can't love yourself, and I know it's such a like it's a challenge for us because we can love so hard for somebody else, but sometimes for ourselves it's like, which is bizarre, but that's just, you know, the way it is sometimes. And so really being able to take that time and give that love to yourself, it's so uncomfortable at first, but like can just keep going through that uncomfortableness and giving yourself it because we deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one thing that it would be nice for women to do more of would be to treat yourself to a boudoir shoot and then post the pictures on your own walls, like not on your Facebook wall. I mean, you can if you want to, but I'm talking about actually like putting a picture, a poster of yourself when you feel super sexy, frame it and put that on the wall. And you get to see it every day and be like, that's me and I'm sexy and I'm glorious. And no matter what you feel like you look like in your day to day, you know that that person that you see on the wall is you.
Mm-hmm.
And really just like honoring that and loving that.
Yeah.
I just started doing some affirmations like that. Every day I commit to doing one positive affirmation about myself. And I think today's affirmation was, I don't remember what it said. I think I said I'm beautiful inside or something's crazy, but is it the same thing as saying affirmations or as writing down those 20? Because I'm going to challenge myself more to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, the 20, like writing 20 things. And so it's just like whatever that is, you know, whether it's an accomplishment, whether it's just something about your body, whatever. And it was just like, once you start writing it down and you see these things, and it's like you're connecting with them, you know, because you're just like, you know what, I did do that, and I did do that, and I did do that. And so like all these things start to build up because it's the same thing, like the affirmations, you know, are great, and having those affirmations to affirm yourself. And so sometimes I found that if I was like, I'm powerful, I'd say something, I felt like there was so much resistance there. So, you know, I feel like when I was writing things that I actually did, those were the things that would make me feel like differently, you know.
All right, you have 5 seconds. Give us your top 5.
Of
20.
For you.
Well, one of the things was like, one, I overcame a severe eating disorder. 2, got out of a super toxic relationship. 3, I was able to, you know, to start a business so young. 4, I ran a half marathon with my sister without even preparing for it. Didn't think I could, you know. And 5, I would say, I consider my personal journey and going through the transformation the most courageous thing that I've ever done. So
Wow.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Mara.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
So good to see you guys and meet you. Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah, no, it was super fun. Well, Elysia, did you want to share anything positive you want to share that you've done through your great things?
Girl, you know I could go past the hour. I'm trying to behave.
I know you're being good. We only have 7 minutes left. So
no, let Mara's talk, please.
I'm trying to be mindful of the time too. I'm like, okay.
I know we can always do a second interview. We have one person watching, and they're always we have a couple minutes if you want to hop on the live Zoom link. This is your moment. Jump on. But yeah, so it's always a beautiful journey to get to have people here. I feel so honored and privileged when people step up to be interviewed and vulnerably share their own stories and their wisdom. And when people hop on, I just really appreciate beautiful ladies, beautiful on the inside and the out, for showing up here today. Thank you.
What are your top 5?
Oh, I have so many. I'm like, we could do it a whole hour, I feel like, on it. Let's see here. I moved to Charlottesville, Virginia without knowing anyone or having a job or a place to live. And I took that opportunity and I built a business from scratch, from zero to I think it was $6,800 last month. That was my income in a place where I didn't know anybody. And I built my massage business as a cash-based practice with no clients that were already here as a base. And that was the first time I'd done that, because I spent my entire career of 20 years as a massage therapist in insurance. I overcame being in a wheelchair where doctors told me that I was never going to potentially walk again or stand up straight. And I walk and dance and have run baby steps before, but I'm not technically supposed to be running. I too have left a toxic relationship, and I am still alive after 13 years of every day having suicidal ideations, age 13 to 26. And I am now 41. So I feel like those are pretty big ones to offer to the table.
Sure.
But it's so interesting how, I mean, I don't know how it is for you ladies, but for me, I'm just like, yeah, it's what I did, because the choice is not to stop, right? Like you just like, yeah, of course, like whatever, it's just another day, and I don't make a big deal about it. And I've talked to many women about how for women, oftentimes we don't celebrate our victories. We just keep going. And so we should work on that. And I try to stay away from should, but I'm going to leave that one there, because I think that we really should work on celebrating our victories more often in life as human beings, men, women, anyone across the gender spectrum, as just a human being, for showing up and surviving just one more day on this interesting planet and time, and all the glorious things from small to large that we succeed at. Celebrate yourself.
That's right.
So funny. All right, Elysia, you got to give me at least one.
Well, I retired from the Navy, so that was pretty cool. I flew a plane before I was 17. I started my own business. I too left a very, very toxic relationship, and I'm a cancer survivor.
Oh, amazing.
Awesome. Well done, Elysia. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Awesome. I was like, I'm not letting her off the hook.
Yeah.
All right. There's so many. Elysia has been on here and has been interviewed, and her bio of accolades is like book worthy. But yeah, if there's an interview to catch, that's definitely one of them. All right, ladies, it has been a true pleasure. And if anyone is interested in coming to see me for connection coaching, feel free. You can find me on globalequineaffiliates.com. I have a workshop coming up on September 20th for 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there will be a link over there or down there or wherever you might be looking, down here.
Yeah.
And if you would like to be interviewed and provide some wonderful wisdom here on the show and vulnerably share your story, we would love to have you, and you can find me there as well. So we will have Mara's contact information in the details below when this is published, and we look forward to seeing you all next time.
Thank you guys. Awesome.